A sight we have waited almost 50 years for, as rare today as the billowing sails of a Placentia Bay schooner. Hector and Grace Dick's home is preparing for repatriation, not to Harbour Buffett, where they lived in the 1960s, but to Spencers Cove. The house has spent the last 50 years on Tax Beach Place, a home for Alex Smith, the first headmaster of the new St Michael's School, and lastly Roy Abbott. A plan is hatched in the months before the 50th anniversary of resettlement to return it to the islands, where it can enjoy its days as a recreation centre to the families at Spencers Cove. It's doubtful the house will object, freed at last. Old skills come back into play. Long poles push through under the length of the house, and more poles beneath them allow the house to slide. Grease is applied to ease movement, and securing bolts tighten between the floor and longitudinal poles. Kevin Wareham and Ken Peach remember how it was. They did it back in the 60s.
There's not too much work today getting it ready, because today you got machinery to do the work. But back 50 years ago it was all manual labour. Jacks and trying to get all the poles and that in place and under, right, to carry the house. Here we got a jack here, right, to keep the end up, to take it out over.
What we got done here today, we put these sticks under so we can make a cradle, and then we got more sticks across underneath them, right? And so right now the house is sitting on the sticks that run across. Mm-hmm. So we'll just hopefully just pull it right off.
Just drag it off.
Drag it off. Right?
What's the purpose of having these big poles across the back?
Across to create a cradle for the house to sit on, so the house won't be, the sticks will not be hauled out from in under the.
This big stick will go to keep the other sticks from going ahead, right? If the bolts don't hold it in place, they'll just come up by the back of the house and hold it in place.
Right. And of course, what you're doing today, although you're doing it with machinery, 50 years ago you'd have been using blocks and tackle and a lot more manpower.
They would have, yeah. And they also used the boat on the fall of the tackle to pull the. They used the boat a lot to pull the, when they could, right? To pull the house rather than being, right?
Did bulldozers go over there much to do any hauling? No.
Later, when the government got into it, the government had a barge that they had brought up after, and they had a bulldozer on the barge, but that was later in the lot of places.
Right. Was it quite a task dragging them up here? Because this was just mud and muck.
Mud, yeah.
But what did you use, a bulldozer?
Old bulldozer, that's all we had, yeah.
On the islands, homes were built on concrete posts. They did not have basements, but the moving principle is the same, and sticks to roll on are laid out. The new road is protected, although Kevin Wareham is still worried his machine will destroy it. With his deft control and no doubt an affectionate nod, the house relinquishes his grip and moves steadily off its base. It's free to start the journey to the barge.
If the plan is right.
They have succeeded in the first hurdle, and it becomes a process of moving forward stage by stage, moving poles ahead with the machine. Back in the 60s, this had to be done by manual labour over much tougher terrain. The move is going well so far, but Wilfred Best is concerned anything can happen as this 8-ton home moves down the incline. Keeping it greased is one thing, too much could be a disaster. The machine makes it look like a one-man show, but it's the Best's party. Wilfred, son Scott, Trevor Hoskins and his brother Jeremy all help with operations. As Trevor says, the younger generation are the grunts today. As the house approaches the road, a braking system is employed. 50 years ago it would have been a block and tackle. There's anxiety today, and it becomes necessary to drag the home onto the road once the muddy track. And then the home lurches into the grass, possibly caused by rough-cut telegraph poles. Imagine what they had to work with 50 years ago. But today, mechanical power quickly corrects the direction. This plan to return home to the islands is a courageous one, both from a practical aspect and one of sensitivity. What does the old shell feel as it is hauled in the opposite direction? It surely has feelings and memories. And what would it like to say? And perhaps by now it's thinking of nothing other than escape, but wondering too if the Spencers Cove crowd will be as congenial as the harbour buffets. I think it will be a pleasant return, and no plans to overutilise you. No heating systems and electric cables. We want you to embrace and harmonise our group. Here at the launching off point, the bank is trimmed before the house is brought close to the edge. Once it is in position, the gravel can be built up to form a vertical bank. "50 years ago, Kevin Wareham used his old bulldozer. This is the end of the first phase. At high tide, the pontoon will be floated in, and on the next low tide, the house will be hauled aboard. It's full credit to this group, who really do want to keep their island history alive, and to Kevin for getting the home this far, although he cannot remember bringing it ashore 50 years ago.
Was it a mirror image operation of 50 years ago?
It was pretty good, yeah.
But
Better than most times.
doing it in reverse, did that give you more concerns?
No, not really.
But when you pull them off onto the land,
Yeah.
I mean, you did exactly the same thing. You built a ramp,
Yeah,
and then just pulled
reverse,
it.
yeah.
But how did you pull them off?
They're all dozer.
Dozer.
Yeah.
First few was only that little John Deere tractor with the winch on it, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, two old dozers hooked together and with a winch on the back of one, right? And that wasn't powerful enough, so they made to get a bigger one, right? Yeah.
Was this a sort of a fairly typical size house? I mean, I know some of them were 2 stories, but in actual dimension, is that pretty much average?
Yeah, that's average pretty well. Them old 2-story box houses were easier to haul than that.
Were they?
Yeah. They were stronger. We couldn't break them up. No.
They were stronger.
Yes, the old box type house,
yeah.
those soft box house.
I remember Cease telling me how occasionally if they got it slightly wrong, the back of the house would be flapping away.
Yeah, yeah. We turned back at them once in a while. Yeah.
Did you ever get sued?
No, back then no one done something like that to you. No.
No, you took the chances then.
Take the chance. Nobody thought about doing anything like that. We do what they could to help someone, that was it.
I mean, that's how it was. Although they were paying, it was still help, wasn't it, really? Yeah. But I mean, you must have seen some fairly tearful sights. I mean, some very upset people.
Oh, I did. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It was a big upset in people's lives. Very big upset in people's lives. Have to do like it, right? And that's all they had was the house.
Yeah, that was their whole value. Yeah,
yeah. House, right? Yeah. To see that destroyed or something, the back farm, it wasn't very nice, I guess, for feeling, right?
Yeah. Just time for a quick reflection on where it stood for 50 years. following morning, Wilfred Best is there early, organising. The crowd and the team gathers. A few poles are laid in the new bank for the home to roll onto the pontoon. Again, this is a moment when matters could go wrong, a collapse of the bank or a sideways slip.
There's a place that I have known of since my childhood, my father's home. I long to be there to roam and wander the beaches up in the old cove, where the beautiful maples still stand there, silhouettes in the setting sun. Come back to life, spring it launches, the old cove forever is gone.
And my father told me stories of a lifestyle that we'll never know, where the first generation sent centralization just to visit, then we'd head her back home.
In the 50s the place did prosper, but now only memories remain of the time when the government paid an allowance, move and start over again. Into Arnold's Cove many did settle, yet further still others did go. To start a new life, it took all their might, but their hearts stayed up in the old cove.
And my father told me stories of a lifestyle that we'll never know, where the first generation sent centralization just to visit, then we'd head her back home.
So many years have passed by now since our family said farewell that day, and the lives that they knew just faded from view, disappeared like our wake on the bay. It's those times forever, they're gone by, and there's many the young folk they say, how we can't help but wonder how our lives would be different if our parents had not moved away.
And my father told me stories of a lifestyle that we'll never know, where the first generation sent centralization just to visit, then we'd head her back home. And my father told me stories of a lifestyle that we'll never know, where the first generation sent centralization just to visit, then we had her back home.
And there you have it. Simple, when you know what you're doing.
Trevor, yesterday was a bloody good success. Talk me through some of the planning that went into this.
The original planning happened months ago, when we started cutting this place out right down, took all the gyprock out, and a lot of trips to the dump. But yesterday, it really all came together yesterday when we got her off the foundation, and she came off pretty good.
I mean, a good operation in reverse. I mean, you weren't even thought about 50 years ago.
Thought about.
So, who was in a sense the brains behind this? Who had the expertise?
It was a combination of a lot of people. I would say, well, Kevin, can't thank Kevin enough because he had the machinery and stuff, and he done it. But and Uncle Wilford Best, and Kenneth and Scott. Me and Scott put a lot of the grunt work into it, but I wouldn't want to forget anyone. But there was a bunch of people. My father, my brother. It was just a whole family effort to get this up Spencers Cove for a community centre.
Yes, just tell me what is the purpose of moving a building? I guess it's about 30 feet by 27 feet.
Yeah, it's about that, 30 by 28, somewhere around there. Yeah. The purpose is for a community centre. When we get it up the bay for functions, we do a lot of different things up Spencers Cove. We do just this past about 3 weeks ago, we had Christmas up there, and it was about 60 to 70 people up Spencers Cove that weekend, and 20 odd kids, I guess it was, something like that, with Santa Claus and just functions like that. Instead of keeping it all in one cabin, usually we do things in our meadow, and that's where we hold all of our big functions. But if it rains, we got to go to cabins and keeping. If we're I don't want to say that, but if we're partying or something like that, we keeping people up in their cabins or whatever. So this is just a place that the whole community can go, and we haven't got to worry about keeping people up. People can go back to their own cabins, and it's just a place to meet. And it's all about I'd be if I didn't mention Nan Peach, because Nan is the reason for it all. I said we should call this the Lizzie Rec Centre. It was a success for stuff that I wouldn't have ever thought of. Obviously Kevin knowing how to do it. He with the sticks, the poles, and where he had them placed to, and how she came off. I mean, she came off flawlessly. We broke one floorboard, and but we had her all bolted down to the floor in different places, and from every step went perfectly. Yeah, it was really good.
Do you think it was a textbook story? I mean, as far as you understand from what Kevin suggested and others who of that generation, do you think you followed it to the T with what was required?
Compared to what they done 60 years ago, or sorry, 50 years. Compared to what they done 50 years ago, I would, other than excavator, I'd imagine it was much the same scenario. Went much the same way. A lot easier on the back with the excavator, I'd imagine. Them men certainly worked for what they done, I guarantee you.
Yeah, it's all pulleys and turfers and boats.
Brute force and ignorance. Yeah, they were men.
And of course, you've got the hard work ahead of you once you get it over there, haven't you?
Yeah, that's gonna be fun too when we get it up there. Yeah, I'm not sure how that's gonna work out. We're hoping to get maybe some machinery to not excavator machinery or anything like that, but maybe some certain kind of a puller or tug or turf or something like that that'll help us out a bit. Yeah. Luckily, where she got to go to when we get to Spencers Cove is only got to go about the length of the building where we're putting her to right now. So,
gosh, so you where it's going to go, although it's going to be very low, it's obviously quite protected weather-wise.
Yeah. Well, actually, there is one wind that'll probably hurt it, but we'll figure something out from there. Yeah.
That same evening, Thursday, 21st of July, fearful of a change in the weather, the home is floated out, witnessed by a small crowd. The majority had never seen such a sight in their lives.
How are you, Dad?
Good. I missed the launch. Did it come away easily? It was floating. It was floating, was it? Right.
Anxious about the deteriorating weather, the house is floated round into Arnold's Cove. The 2-hour trip was not without its excitement. As for the journey across to Spencers Cove, well, that really does require a very special day. 50 years on, they're not going to lose this one. The house is floating high. Sometimes homes on barges were 1 or 2 feet underwater by the time they crossed the bay. There's a small welcoming party at Arnold's Cove, mainly the mooring crew and friends. The house will remain aboard the pontoon for the next 10 days here for visitors to see, before the journey to Spencers Cove on the northwestern side of Long Island. Across the bay at Spencers Cove, they're preparing for the arrival of their new rec centre. With a feast of salt cod, the traditional life prevails. On Monday the 1st of August, the small flotilla sets off from Arnold's Cove. Towboats, escort and telegraph poles follow behind the home. It's a smooth crossing to the top of Long Island and down the western side of Spencers Cove.
And vacate our homes. Centralization forever would alter the lives of our neighbors and also our own. Now it's many years later, times they are changing. Deep in our hearts forever we'll yearn for Placentia Bay in all of its splendor, waiting for us someday to return. When the day finally came to leave our homestead, we were resettled without any delay. We made our new homes in various places, but dreamed of the old ones in Placentia Bay. And it's many years later, times they are changing. Deep in our hearts, forever we'll yearn for Placentia Bay in all of its splendor, waiting for us someday to return. Well, time don't go backward, it keeps moving forward. We must move with it, give life our best. We'll take our children to visit the islands and share our fond memories as we reminisce. Now it's many years later, our children remind us they do not consider the islands their homes. Home was their parents and also their memories, and they only know it by what they've been told. As it's many years later, times they are changing. Deep in our hearts, forever we'll yearn for Placentia Bay in all of its splendor, waiting for us someday to return. Our children are growing and soon will be leaving the homes of their childhood for lives of their own. Centralization caused wounds that are healing, and maybe someday the pain will be gone. Now it's many years later, Times they are changing, for deep in our hearts forever we'll yearn for Placentia Bay in all of its splendor, waiting for us someday to return. Now it's 50 years later, times they are changing, deep in our hearts forever we'll yearn for Placentia Bay in all of its splendor, waiting for us someday to return.
By mid-morning they have broken the back of the shift. They demonstrate that the old methods, with a few modern touches, can still work, and they were emboldened to suggest that perhaps they could start a new business in returns to the islands. One hopes this project will reward the families here at the beaches for many years to come. Returned it surely is.
Last night we had a problem there, but we had to give up because of darkness. But this morning, when we started this morning, everything started to work together and it started to come along pretty good. But bringing her up the other day, we left it nice and calm when we left, but we got the forecast which calmed for us a lot of wind. We were a bit nervous towing her across, but we didn't get the wind. It was calm all day. Lucky for us. We got her here. But that house was built in Harbour Buffett. A fellow by the name of Hector Dix owned the house. And Freeman Ware bought it, and he brought it into Arnold Cove, and he started up as a teacher's residence. And from there, I think there was after 3 or 4 families lived in it after that. But then when Kevin wanted to get rid of it, talked to Scott about it, and Scott said it'd be a nice thing to have up the bay. So it started from there. We stripped her out inside there earlier the year, and then, well, everybody will see the video, I guess, when we start hauling her off and get her down on the float. And now she's up here. I suppose she'll stay there now for the fall, or for the summer anyway. Maybe the fall we'll start up work at it again, but we only got a month left now in summer. Summer's gone, so we don't want to spend it at that. But it was good. It's a good move. Never had too much trouble.